What does it take to change a country's fate? For Tanzania, that question was answered in 2015 when John Pombe Magufuli took office. He was not a man of gentle words or patient compromise. Nicknamed the bulldozer, Magufuli promised transformation, not just governance. He saw Tanzania's potential shackled by corruption and inertia, and declared war on the status quo. His vision, Tanzania as the economic heartbeat of East and Central Africa, built on concrete, steel, and electrified railways. Magufuli moved fast, making surprise visits to project sites and demanding results. The message was clear. Excuses were over and the era of building had begun. Mega projects became symbols of national pride and economic independence. Critics warned of rising debt, environmental risks, and authoritarianism. But for millions, the sound of construction was the sound of hope. Cranes, trains, and new roads became proof that change was real. Under Magufuli, Tanzania dared to dream bigger than ever before. At the heart of Magufuli's strategy was the Standard Gauge Railway, or SGR, a steel spine to carry commerce across Tanzania and beyond. More than a railway, it was a geopolitical statement. Tanzania would no longer play second fiddle to Kenya's Mombasa port. Magufuli envisioned Dar es Salaam as Africa's premier gateway, connecting landlocked neighbors to the Indian Ocean. The SGR was a $10 billion leap, slashing cargo transit times from weeks to hours. Unlike past projects, Tanzania funded the initial phases itself, signaling control over its destiny. Turkish and Chinese firms worked with Tanzanian engineers, building skills and national pride. Each completed section was a victory for Magufuli's work-only philosophy. The SGR aimed to drive industrialization and redefine East Africa's economic map. Lower costs, faster trade, and new growth along the route were the goals. It was a high-stakes gamble, but Magufuli believed Tanzania had to build the bones of a giant to become one. The SGR became the ultimate symbol of his ambition. For Tanzania, the future was being forged in steel. If the SGR was Tanzania's skeleton, the Julius Nyerere Hydropower Project was its heart. Chronic power shortages had long stifled growth. Magufuli's answer was a massive dam on the Rufiji River. Despite international outcry over its location in a UNESCO site, he pressed on, prioritizing energy for development over environmental concerns. The dam, set to double Tanzania's electricity capacity, was funded by the state and built with African partners. For Magufuli, electrification was the master key to industrialization and prosperity. The project became a symbol of defiance and self-determination. Magufuli's transformation was visible on the ground, on roads, bridges, and airports. He launched a relentless campaign to connect Tanzania, paving over 3,500 kilometers of highways and building iconic structures like the Magufuli Bridge over Lake Victoria. Travel times shrank, and regions once isolated were linked to markets and ports. Quality and cost were his obsessions. Delays and corruption met with public scorn. Airports and ports were modernized, boosting trade and mobility. Each new road and bridge was a step toward a unified national market. Magufuli wasn't just building infrastructure, he was building a new national identity. For Magufuli, infrastructure was a means to an end, industrialization. He rejected the model of exporting raw materials and importing finished goods. Made in Tanzania became a rallying cry, with aggressive state-led efforts to revive and build industries. Special economic zones and revived state enterprises aimed to create jobs and serve domestic needs. The government pressured businesses to invest locally, aligning with the national agenda. By 2020, thousands of new factories had opened, and local products filled shop shelves. Critics called it protectionist, but Magufuli saw it as economic sovereignty. He was determined to move Tanzania up the value chain. Magufuli's defense of sovereignty was clearest in his handling of the Bagamoyo port project. He canceled a $10 billion Chinese-backed deal, calling its terms exploitative and a threat to Tanzania's control. Instead, he invested in upgrading existing ports, keeping them under Tanzanian ownership. Anti-corruption drives at Dar es Salaam port boosted state revenues. Critics feared lost investment, but supporters saw a leader putting country before profit. The Bagamoyo decision defined his presidency sovereignty over short-term gain. For Magufuli, ports were gateways, and their keys belonged to Tanzania. Tanzania's mineral wealth had long benefited outsiders more than its people. Magufuli overhauled mining laws, increasing royalties and mandating state stakes in major projects. He forced companies to process minerals locally and cracked down on smuggling. The showdown with Acacia Mining led to a landmark deal, more revenue and control for Tanzania. Critics worried about scaring off investors, but supporters hailed a leader reclaiming national resources. Magufuli's reforms sent shockwaves through the industry. For many, he was the first to truly stand up for Tanzania's mineral wealth. Magufuli's presidency was a whirlwind of change, leaving Tanzania transformed and divided. Supporters see a patriot who built infrastructure, fought corruption, and inspired national pride. Critics point to authoritarianism, debt, and environmental costs. His projects brought real change, faster travel, new jobs, and hope for millions. But his rule also silenced dissent and raised questions about sustainability. Magufuli forced Tanzania to think bigger and believe in itself. He took risks whose outcomes will be judged by future generations. Did he lay the foundation for prosperity or burden the nation with debt? What's certain, he rewired Tanzania's sense of possibility. The bulldozer carved a new path, and Tanzania is forever changed.